Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you for all the committee. I'll start this session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, all the presenter, all the participants and attendees. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahil amin. Praise to Allah Subhanahu wa taala and salawat and salam for our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is my honor to come to this session, international workshop on the economic of Islamic microfinance, held by University Islam Sultan Agung, Perhimpunan PMT Indonesia, or Baitul Mal wa Tamwil Indonesian Organization Association, and the Organization of Islamic Economic Studies and Talk. This is a very interesting topic in this very interesting era that we will talk about the Islamic microfinance that is become a popular issue, not just in Indonesia, but also in the Islamic countries, and even in the whole world. We hear many countries, many scholars, many universities talk about Islamic, talk about Islamic, even Islamic and microfinance, and it is very interesting. And um, I would like to say this is a good time. We have many speakers from different background that will share in the session about their ideas, their research in a very broad areas. So we have in this last session, in the session D, we have three session. But I'm sorry to to the committee. The last session, in my uh, brief, we have Mrs. Yuli Indasari and Pak Widianto Mislan. But the committee said that the last season or the third season is a different speaker. I have to clarify first. So the last season.
Absent the tentative program by Dr. Kartikome, the new tentative.
Okay.
The
So
first Dr. The first presenter, speaker Waida in the session.
oh, okay. So we move to the first season first, Pak Widi. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The first session we have interesting topic, the case in the Kenya. Mrs. Wahida Muhammad Atman Ali from University Technology Malaysia. She will share her ideas and research about scenarization and its implication on financial inclusion, the case in Kenya. And we have Mr. Ardian Adiatma from Universitas Islam Sultan Agung as the panelist in this session. So please welcome Mrs. Wahida Muhammad Atman Ali. The time is yours in this first session.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Let me just share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Wahida Mohammed. I'm based out of Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a PhD student for software engineering at the University Technology of Malaysia. But I've also started an Islamic fintech hub operating out of Nairobi with 7 very exciting startups that we are working with. I've also worked a little bit for the Islamic Research Training Institute of Saudi as a research assistant, and I've worked with some big names in the Islamic finance research. The paper I will inshallah present is entitled Scenarization and its Implication on Financial Inclusion, the Case of Kenya. This is not an econometrics paper, but it is an attempt at tracing the journey of a telco that turned fintech as it transforms our lives here in Kenya. First, let's take a look at Kenya's status of financial inclusion. It is ranked very highly, second only to Seychelles and South Africa, according to a FinAccess report of 2019, with 82.9% of the population being formally financially included. If we break these statistics down a little bit further, according to the same FinAccess 2019 report, the financial access gap between male and female is closing, although some disparity still remains, while the rural-urban gap in access to formal financial services has declined from 23.8% in 2006 to a high of 77.3%. Kenya, being a developing country, would lead someone to ask the question, what is happening here? What is bringing about this sort of rapid financial inclusion? Here perhaps are a few answers. Kenya is known as the Silicon Savannah. According to the World Intellectual Property Organization Global Innovation Index 2019 report, it is the second leading innovation hub in sub-Saharan Africa. How? Because it has a conducive, accommodative regulatory system, strong private sector, government support, an undersea fiber optic cable that offers cheap, reliable broadband, and the 14th fastest mobile internet speeds in the world. Almost 88% of us have access to the internet via our phones. If we dig a little bit further, according to the African Tech Startup Funding Report, Kenya is one of the three main markets with 78 ventures that received from the pot of US $701 million in 2020. The most funded 12 Kenyan fintech companies whose logos you see on the right of the screen received US $293 million across 32 rounds, with the highest amount being received in Series C by Cellulant. These fintech, with the exception of Cellulant, are single-purpose entities. I will ask you to keep these words, single-purpose fintech, in your mind as I go through the rest of the slides. Scenarization. There are not many people who can argue with the fact that mobile money is one of the most economically viable channels to provide services to the underserved. While there are many studies that focus on how such technologies make finance better, there are few that focus on how technology makes finance serve real life better. This integration between finance, technology, and real life needs is what is referred to as scenarization, a word coined by Professor Longchen in 2016. Professor Longchen, in his paper From FinTech to FinLife, the case of fintech development in China, indicates that fintech has grown much faster in China than in the USA, not because of initial technology advantage, but due to scenarization, the integration of finance, technology, and real-life needs. This study has important implications for understanding financial innovations and development of inclusive finance, basically because of how rapidly consumers can now obtain access to finance via technology. Safaricom PLC is a telecom that was established in Kenya in 1997, whose mission is to transform lives. It took 2 years for the Central Bank of Kenya and therefore the government of Kenya to grant it a special operating license. In 2000, Vodafone UK acquired 40% shares of Safaricom PLC. M-Pesa, the mobile money transfer, was started by Safaricom in 2007. And in 2008, Safaricom issued an IPO, something we rarely find in fintech companies, especially at that time. 2007 and 2008 was a pivotal year for Kenya. We survived post-election violence that almost ripped this country apart. But this is the very reason that M-Pesa thrived, because it provided a means for storing and sending money outside the formal banking system, which was not operating. In 2009, Safaricom introduced the pay bill number, followed by the till numbers in 2011. The pay bill was used for non-face-to-face customer-to-business payments where official relationships existed, where the customer has an official account number with the business they are paying. Till number allowed us to pay for goods and services with the cost being borne by the company providing the services. Initially, these transactions were not real-time, with Safaricom acting as a verifying broker. However, in 2012, bots or programs designed to automate tasks were incorporated. In 2013, Safaricom partnered with Commercial Bank of Africa to launch M-Shwari, a micro savings and credit product. In the same year, Lipa na M-Pesa was launched, where one could order goods and pay for them on arrival, which worked very well for the informal sector. Initially, registration for Lipa na M-Pesa was manual, tedious, and businesses could only access funds after some time. But Safaricom quickly learned the lessons and made the necessary corrections. In 2014, M-Shwari Lock Savings Account was launched, which means Kenyans could now have some sort of fixed deposit on their phone, paying a higher rate of return than normal savings. 2015 was a golden year for Safaricom. It launched the Lipa and M-Pesa API platform, allowing customers to confirm and approve transactions, which reduced the inconvenience of, for example, paying to a correct pay bill number but quoting a wrong account number. It launched M-Akiba, making Kenya the first country in the world to sell a treasury bond via a mobile platform, entirely taken up in 13 days. They launched Okoa Stima, where customers, based on their historical relationship with the electricity company, could borrow to settle their electricity bills. Safaricom, in collaboration with the government of Kenya, launched Pay Bill number 206206 for payment of government services through eCitizen platform. It launched M-Pesa Sure Pay, which is a closed-loop payment system for corporate and development organizations like the World Food Programme, who can place restrictions on where the money is spent by their beneficiaries. Safaricom also partnered with the Kenya Cooperative Creameries and the Kenya Tea Development Agency to roll out a cashless solution to enhance business efficiency and address risks in cash handling. In 2016, Safaricom launched M-Tiba, a mobile health wallet that allows Kenyans to set funds at specific healthcare facilities. This is in partnership with UAP Insurance. M-Pesa Kadogo was launched in this year that scrapped all charges for mobile money transfers of less than $1. In essence, Safaricom forgo $4.5 million in revenue in order to make impact at the lower end of the transaction chain and compete with cash transactions. In 2017, Daraja API, the interactive voice recognition, balance inquiry, and M-Pesa One Tap were launched. The API enhanced checkout experience. M-Pesa One Tap is making payment using a card, a phone sticker, or a wristband. But what is most important is the IVR, where you would think that it is meant to serve only the visually impaired, but it has gone on and served even people who cannot read and write. The reason for IVR was to counter fraud for such vulnerable groups. M-Pesa Global was launched, and we can now send and receive money globally. This is in partnership with Western Union and PayPal. In 2019, Safaricom launched Fuliza, an overdraft facility on our mobile phones in partnership with NCBA and KCB banks. Over US $9 million is transacted daily on the Fuliza platform. The next slide is to look at the impact of scenarization on Kenyan government policy and regulation. A loose regulatory structure exists where Safaricom has been given a special license, more relaxed from the Central Bank of Kenya. Regulatory challenges that have been faced include that innovation and scenarization is led by a non-bank organization outside the scope of financial regulations whose innovative products are new concepts that cuts across various sectors where there is very little precedence to draw upon. Do the benefits of operating such a large payment and financial structure outside the regulatory framework outweigh the dangers of, say, collapse, lack of enhanced data privacy laws, and means to guard against anti-competitive and monopolistic practices? Let's look at the benefits. The 2008 IPO, which in my view was a genius stroke, brought in 860,000 new investors, raising US dollars 2.1 billion for Safaricom. Please remember, these 860,000 investors are also customers of Safaricom. By the end of 2014, Mshwari boasted 9.2 million savings account and disbursed US dollar 185,000 in loans to 2.8 million borrowers. This was 1 year after launch. By 2016, the Mshwari locked saving account balances were 10 times higher than the average Mshwari saving balances, with an average lock period of 3.8 months. During the 1-month trial period in 2015, Lipa na M-Pesa service accounted for 43% of the total daily cash collections of the new Kenya cooperative creameries. Masoko, the e-commerce platform launched by Safaricom, started off with 200 vendors offering 20,000 products in 2018. As of 2019, Safaricom controlled 63.5% of the Kenyan market with 31.8 million customers, 22.6 million of whom are subscribed to M-Pesa. C2B transactions via M-Pesa in the first quarter of 2020 stood at US dollar 2.8 billion, accounting for 98% of Kenya's customer-to-business mobile money transactions. The IVR system handles an average of 1,500 inquiries per day, which surges to 2,500 during the first and last weeks of the month. DigiFarm has reached 800,000 farmers and in 2018 won the first company world-changing idea award. 160,000 M-Pesa agents where we can go and cash out money are in existence across Kenya. Customer-to-government payments in the first quarter of 2020 stood at US dollars 100 million. Business-to-business transactions in the first quarter of 2020 stood at US dollars 7.9 billion. As I end, I would like you to think about those words I told you to keep in mind, the single-purpose fintech. Considering that Safaricom PLC is one of the most profitable companies in East and Central Africa, is it time we change our ways of understanding financial innovation and development of inclusive finance? I leave you with this question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wahida Muhammad. It's a very interesting topic. It's amazed me about how fast and interesting about financial inclusion in Kenya, and how you bring perspective of digital startup and financial technology in the land of Silicon of Savannah. Thank you, Mrs. Wahida, and now please welcome Mr. Ardian Adiatma from Unisula to come with the discussion.
Yeah.
The time is yours, Pak Ardian.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Adrian. I'm from Sultan Agung Islamic University. I'm really glad, Mrs. Waida, you become one of the participants of this conference, and enjoy your presentation, and your article is very good. First of all, I want to ask you, we sure that every country have a different culture, and that is one of the challenge that faced by a company to accommodate society culture. Of course, the second one is the government regulation. How about the government regulation in Kenya facing by a new technology, just like fintech? And how about perception of society culture about the fintech in Kenya?
Society culture about fintech is very, very accepted here in Kenya. We have very many fintech hubs operating. We didn't have an Islamic fintech hub specifically focused on Islamic fintech, but for every other type of fintech, we have very many, and a lot of funding comes into the country. We have many innovative ideas that are coming up, but they are all, like I say, single purpose fintech, except for Cellulant that is now trying to go towards the Safaricom, where and fit its technology in our lifestyles. As far as regulation is concerned, it is not very rigid. You can see from the case of Safaricom, the government is able to license it under a very flexible license compared to conventional banks, and allow it to thrive while making sure that it does not collapse with Kenyan people money. So the regulatory system is very, very accommodative, and it's learning as it goes. It's reactive, but it learns very fast.
Okay, thank you. Can you give me some example about how the government share the regulation about the fintech to the society?
I think probably it will be through the innovative hubs that we have around, because many of us will be members, and we will have a lot of communication between us and the central bank and other. It's not only the central bank that gives the regulation, other institutions. So we get a lot of communication, and there's also an open way where people are invited to participate and give reasoning behind why they think certain regulations should go this way and not the other way. So it's very participatory as well. We have forums that we attend as people in fintech, and also people on the regulatory side. There is a Kenya Bankers Association conference that is held annually, where people from research institutions, students, regulators all meet for about 3 days in one space and share things that have happened over the past year.
Okay. According to your article, you said that fintech in Kenya is accepted by the people, the society, right?
Yes.
And the government.
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain to us about how handicapped to share fintech in Kenyan?
Okay, I'll give again the example of what I said in the Safaricom IVR solution, where the phone speaks to you as you check your balance inquiry. You do not need to be able to see. Um, this is because normally whenever we develop fintech or technology apps, we tend to forget about such groups. We forget about people who can't read and write. But this is an organization that is trying to include everybody. Some of its apps are available in both English and the national language of Swahili. So as many people as possible can access it. And you don't necessarily have to have a smartphone. They use basically a USSD code. You just key in on your feature phone and you can access all the services that you're
Yeah, I think we have the same challenge in just like in Indonesia and Kenya. Not all our society have technology to get the fintech. Okay, I think that's all from me, Mr. Amjad.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ardian, for your discussion. So this is a Q&A session, maybe from all the attendants or participants. Any question to Mrs. Wahida? Is there any?
Yeah, I think that is a good article to get research from the fintech in Kenya.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ardian, for your feedbacks. So, Mrs. Wahida, if there is no question from the participant or audience, maybe you can.
Excuse me.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Pak Kartiko. So please ask some question or feedback.
Thank you, Mas Retas, for me. I'm so sorry that coming late, but from my sister, for my sister, Wahida, Alhamdulillah we meet again and long to meet. So I will ask about the first session. We were talking about the women role in microfinance. There is a statement that the Kenya has evidence implementing microfinance for women. Maybe could you to explain about the women role in Islamic finance, especially in digitalizing about women in Kenya? Maybe it will make us, especially in Indonesia, we can learn and deeply study about how to provide digital facility to women. Mr. Retas, thank you.
Okay, what I would say about women's participation in microfinance in Kenya, it's high. We have the conventional types of microfinance a lot. For Islamic microfinance, we don't have any, but we do have many. We have 3 fully fledged Islamic banks and many Islamic windows in the conventional banks. Safaricom, the way it gives its microcredit product almost mimics an Islamic finance product. They don't charge you interest immediately you borrow. When we talk about Mshwari, I can borrow based on my history with Safaricom, say $100, and they will charge me a one-off administrative fee of 7%. But then if I pay immediately, that is all I will pay to Safaricom. But if I don't, then interest kicks in. And of course, now it's not for us to use. And even if you think about it, the entire system also benefits a lot from the interest regime. But it has a lot of women customers because women are mostly in the informal business. Many of the women do not have access to property that they can use as security in formal microfinance institutions, but based on the history on their phone, Safaricom can lend to them, and they can save also on it. And for those who need, they can also track their records of how much they have saved, how much they have used, who have they paid. And the reason my slide started with showing the breakdown of the, the gender gap between male and female closing in is a contribution being made by this telco towards enabling women to become part of the formally financially included. So we might not have Islamic microfinance in place yet, but even if we did, what my paper I would like people to think about is when you are introducing fintech to a society, think about the whole life of this individual that you're trying to serve, not just one tiny aspect of savings and lending. Think about the model Safaricom has offered to the world. It deals from wealth to saving to health. Anything that you want to do, you're able to do it on just that one app. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wahida. Pak Kartiko, any feedback?
Enough. Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Pak Kartiko and Ms.
Can I ask
Wahida.
question?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Pak Amjad, and also thank you, Dr. Wahida, for joining our workshop. Have been many years in this area. So my question is on the issue of the scaling up and also issues of the ecosystem of this fintech. What would be the impact of this fintech on the scaling up issues? And the second one is on the use of the human resource. Okay, because when we introduce this fintech, one of the problems that maybe I do not know it in Kenya or maybe is an expert in that area. Okay, which normally and usually cannot catch up with what the requirement, not only the requirement but also to prepare the human resource in relation to fintechs. Okay, so how do you see that can solve the problem of introducing fintech in the Islamic microfinance or in the financial services industry?
Okay, as far as scaling up is concerned, there's something I talked about called DG Farm, where farmers where farmers can buy inputs, they can borrow, they can get advice on Safaricom mobile app. Vodafone is looking to expand this into other countries, including India. You must remember Safaricom has very, very strong partners working with it. And that's something fintech needs to consider. When they started, initially after launch, the first thing they look for is a very strong partner to partner with them who can push them forward to where they want to go. Where we fail as fintech is thinking that we can do everything on our own. Safaricom has partnered with banks, financial institutions, agricultural institutions, anyone who can add value towards the life of a Kenyan, they have partnered with them. As far as human resources is concerned, there are two aspects you talked about. One, about the people who will build this technology, the young generation. Africa is, mashallah, blessed with a lot of young people who have a very, very keen interest in technology, mostly because we have seen billionaires coming up amongst our midst very quickly because of technology. Yeah, and on the other side of human resource, where you're talking about people using the technology, the key thing that has been done is to make this app as simple as possible. You don't need to be able to tap many things on the phone. Just a USSD code, *234#, and you're able to do whatever you want to do. If you have a smartphone, one tap and you're able to send money wherever it goes. Simplicity is the key. Thank you. So people don't find it hard to learn how to use. No matter how old you are or whether you know how to read or write, people don't find it hard to use this app.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wahida and Pak Ismail. Any question from
Yeah.
our attendees?
Okay,
Okay,
brother.
Pak.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Yes, Waita. I have met you 8
Malang.
years ago in Malang. Long time we can connected. Yeah. Okay. I want to ask to you related to the potential of implementation of fintech by Islamic microfinance and implemented in Kenya. There's a potential for develop there.
Yes, I said I started an Islamic fintech hub last year. This was in response to a scholarship I received to do my PhD in software engineering. I wanted to come back home and be able to do something useful. So I started the hub, and we have 7 startups that I'm working with right now. The first one is an agricultural fintech. It's a marketplace for buying and selling food. Already, it has received funding from the Kenyan government, from the Kenyan Climate Innovation Center. This is about 7 months after we registered it and presented the proposal. We're trying to bring halal financing into the country. There are other aspects. We also want to have an app that will also lend in Sharia compliance terms. That's one of the startups that I'm working with. And there are many. The interest is there, and the youth they are willing to develop these apps. The only problem so far is there has been no place where you could go and somebody could hold your hand and tell you this is how Sharia standards are meant to be met. When you develop your app, this is what it should look like. Leave alone the financing part. The financing part, people can struggle and raise the money. But we have many gaps, and so far as knowledge is concerned on Islamic Sharia side. So hopefully with the hub, we'll be able to bring change to how the market is operating right now. Hopefully we will gain an interest from Safaricom so that it can also offer Sharia compliant product to the Muslim Ummah that is living here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How, Pak Widianto? Any feedback?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wahida, and all the question from the participants. The last question, any from the participants or attendees? Maybe the last question in this session. Okay. If there is no, so I will give some minutes to Mrs. Wahida to closing your presentation. Maybe you can closing your research or answer again or the question from the audience.
In closing, I will say this. We look at fintech from one viewpoint, normally of how technology is helping finance to become better. It's time we started looking at fintech in terms of how technology is making finance serve our lives better. Finally, what I would like to urge is my fellow ladies who are listening and those who are not here, it is hard to find Muslim ladies, particularly in Africa, dealing in Islamic fintech. I have tried, and I hope, inshallah, that we will have more talent, more people interested in delving into Islamic finance. This is a green field we have here. There is so much opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The president of Tanzania is the women.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Wahida, and your presentation, your enthusiasm, and your contribution in financial technology and Islamic economic in Kenya and how you bring the woman in this industry is a very interesting and stay just stay strong, and because it is not easy, but we really appreciate your effort in this area. Thank you, Ms. Wahida, for your report and your presentation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the second session in this session D. This is also from Africa. It's a very interesting also because the topic is about the economics, about the integrating the theory and the empirical data in microfinance, poverty, and Islam, the case in Nigeria. Please welcome Mr. Solio Hamzat from the Economics Department, Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria. And the discussion will be discussed by Mr. Khalid Ahmed from Islamic Development Bank. So, Mr. Solio Hamzat, are you there?
Yes,
Hello, Mr. Hamzat.
yes, not connected.
Not connected.
Oh,
Maybe we can move to the next one, next speakers, while waiting.
okay. Okay. Maybe Mr. Solio Hamzat will be